My whole life growing up, I was strongly against New Yorkers. I heard they were hostile and rude and that the place was nasty and dangerous. These opinions I gathered from other people were the observations which led me to be a very closed-minded, strictly Southern person. Just a few months ago, while I was in my last moments of high school, my entire senior class and I went on the mandatory senior trip to New York City. I was dreading it, but inevitably I still had to go. By the time second semester came around, I was slowly getting more and more excited about the trip. I realized that if I'm forced to go on this trip, I might as well make the best of it. So I started to think of it more as an adventure instead of mandatory. The day of the trip finally came and we headed off on our journey. Everyone was super excited. We finally arrived in New York, and the first thing we needed to do was get to our hotel. The easiest way to get there was by a cab. So we got in a cab and told the driver where to go. During the ride, one of the girls of my cab group asked the driver questions like where he was from and how long he had been in New York. I was stunned when he said he was from East Africa. He also said that he had been here in America for 8 years. He turned out to be a pretty interesting guy. The next day, we traveled over to see the reconstruction of Ground Zero. There were beautiful waterfall effect fountains built in place of the original Twin Towers. All the names of the people that died in the 9/11 attack were printed along the railing around the fountains. It's very humbling to be there and see this sight in person. Our next stop was the Trinity Church right near Ground Zero. We didn't get to see the inside of the church, so we wandered around the outside. We found a street vendor selling pictures. I noticed he had a weird accent, so I asked him where he was from. At first he told me to guess, but I'm a terrible guesser. We continued talking with him for a while, and he eventually told us that he was from Turkey. He was a pretty open guy with a friendly personality. Later that day, we had some free time to shop or do whatever we wanted, so a group of us walked around Times Square for a while. One street vendor caught our attention because he heard us talking to each other, so we stopped to talk to him. We found out that he's from South Carolina, just like us, so we bought some of his little pictures. Like the other New Yorkers we talked to, this guy was pretty cool too. I learned a lot in New York. I was taught that you can't judge people you don't even know. Most New Yorkers are actually not rude or hostile. At least the ones we met were easy to talk to. I noticed that I could relate myself to each of the New Yorkers in different ways. They were normal people living their lives like you and me. New York in its physical appearance is not all that bad either. Of course, there are the tall buildings that each has its own unique characteristics that give it personality, such as Times Square's enormous television screens and the famous countdown ball that drops every New Year's. And you can't forget about the picturesque Central Park where you can see the calm nature of horse-drawn buggies to the cute little families taking a stroll, or even to the tall lavish trees right in the middle of all the madness. My perception in New York was completely transformed by the end of the trip. I realized that I shouldn't believe everything I hear, nor should I be so quick to judge. I absolutely love New York and I can't wait to go back.